Book is on. This is on.
Welcome to the 101, brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. This is the small business show for Columbus, Ohio, and we have some of the best or even newest entrepreneurs on. I'm here with Dr. Ryan Brown. Rhino, how are you?
What up, what up? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm excited that you're here, and I'm excited that I have to hold this handheld microphone because we have so many people in here. I look like I'm going to sing songs, and I might if this show goes really bad.
You can always do a mic drop.
I'm thinking about it, but Jim says if I drop it, it's going to cost like $8 grand.
7,500
Either way.
per drop.
Yeah. I got 15 grand. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Today on the show, we have Steve Spaulding from SSFitness. Steve, how are you?
Spectacular, thank you.
You're thinking that answer too hard.
Well, I gotta watch my vocabulary.
That is true. We did have to warn Steve not to be Steve so that we could get a show out. We also have Adam Adkinson from See You Leaner Later. How are you, buddy? Did I mess that up?
Yes, but that's okay.
Say it. Explain
See
it.
you later, leaner.
Whatever. It's the same thing.
And actually, that started when my clients left training with me for the day. I would say, see you later, leaner. So it was kind of more of a pun that became a t-shirt, which then became my business brand.
It's definitely a tongue twister.
If you had
Yes.
turned around so I could read the back of your jacket, we'd have been better off. No, now you got to turn around so you can talk on the show. Now, the reason we have you guys both here is Steve. I've known Steve probably since you were 15 years old.
Oh God,
Would
yeah.
that be fair?
The old,
As a young man.
World Gym West Side days.
That's right.
Yeah, long time.
When you had 2 earrings and you were just a big meathead, and now you still have 2 earrings and you're a meathead.
Haven't changed.
I'm so glad that you didn't change.
I still look 15.
That is true. You have not changed
Haven't
your
changed
look.
one bit.
But you guys are in the fitness industry, and you had talked to Rachel and wanted to come on. And we've had Steve on shows before to talk about the importance of hormone balance and all that. But we never really talked about your business and also the fact that you guys work together in an industry where there's not a lot of people that kind of team up. Would that be fair to say?
You could say that, yeah.
There's more divisiveness in your industry than probably.
I wouldn't say. I mean, Adam's been doing this a long time too, and I got into it back in 2002. So I mean, it's changed a lot. I mean, social media's completely flipped it on its head.
Well, that is something I
Last
want
5
to
years.
discuss as we
Yeah.
get going, because I think your leaner comment, when you look at Instagram, everybody's a fitness model now, right?
Yeah, pretty much everybody.
Like if you have a phone and a free app, everybody looks the same. Right?
Yeah, and maybe it's photoshopped, maybe it's not.
Are you saying it's not real if it's on
Maybe
the
it's
internet?
Maybelline.
It could be.
Well, let's start with Steve. You said you got in the business in the early 2000s. Give people a little bit of background on who you are.
I started actually when I was about 12 years old. I got into weightlifting. Really, honestly, not by choice. My father kind of made me do it for wrestling and football, and I kind of just fell in love with it. Honestly, it was started getting attention from the girls going into my sophomore year in high school. I remember I put on probably about 20 pounds. My wrestling coach wasn't very happy that I put the weight on, but at that time, you know, it kind of caught the bug from it. And then as towards I got to about my senior year, I actually in a wrestling tournament really hurt my Achilles, and I had a partial scholarship to Kent State, and that kind of fell through. So I didn't even end up doing any sports really my senior year, and I kind of just fell into bodybuilding and got into that, and started out training my friends like there's a World Gym at Westside, World Gym. And from there, ended up getting my first certification before I was even out of high school from ACE, which is a world-renowned personal training certification course that anybody can take. You got like ACE, NAFTA, ISSA, which are like your top ones that you can do. So I actually had my first certification towards the end of my senior year in high school. And then from there, I enrolled in Ohio State. I wanted to be a nutritionist, dietitian, and unfortunately got into a near-fatal motorcycle wreck. So for the next few years, I just accumulated more certifications, was in and out of college for dietetics, and I did that over the course, and I ended up getting a massage therapy certification. So I just, I feel like I got them all. But over the course of that, back then, there really wasn't like coaching. There was just personal training. Coaching really wasn't relevant at that point. So more so, I was like, I ran Bally's for a few years when we had Bally's before they all got whacked. It's a metaphor because they're ran by the mob, pretty much.
You can't say that on the show. I mean, that is true, but you can't say that on the show. I'm just kidding. You already said it. So just keep going. I like that you got all nervous about it.
I'm just like, can we edit that?
Mom's coming up.
This is the one show that the mob still listens to.
No, those guys
yeah.
would come in from like New York, And I mean, I was only 19, 20 years old, and I'm just like, I mean, they come in, their hair's slicked back, and they just go into the boardroom and just rip you for 2 hours, and I'm just
Well,
like,
it's funny because I had a similar experience. I ran all the California fitness clubs when they
Oh,
came
did you?
to town, and they all came from the West Coast, from California. Imagine that.
Didn't they team up with Lifestyle from Florida?
They sold.
They
to
sold it?
Lifestyle. Yeah,
Okay.
Lifestyle Family Fitness bought it. Now it's
Okay.
Tequila Cowboy.
Tequila Cowboy.
It's still a workout.
Yeah, it's still a workout.
Yeah, it's just a different type of workout.
Yeah.
You know?
So, but you were running these clubs, and then so you had basically a job. Let's just call it like a corporate job.
I was like a PT director, yeah. I did
Yeah,
that, and then I also did training as well. So I was in charge of personal training sales, and I was in charge of that. So I ended up leaving that. And I was always off and on between the Westside World Gym, trained there for a little bit, trained clients out of there a little bit. And then they opened up the Hilliard Metro. They transferred it from the little plaza over where the billiard hall was at, over to where it's at now. And just been over at Metro ever since. So
But that's the only job you've ever
Yeah,
really
pretty
had.
much, yeah.
Like you took a chance on yourself, what, 16, 17 years ago?
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So you went from Bally to doing your own thing.
Doing my own thing. Yeah.
And what was your experience? I know you kind of joked around with Bally, but what was your experience there? Like positive, negative?
It was a good experience. I mean, with anything in life, I always take everything in a positive perspective and a positive eye. You know, regardless, Bally's ended up closing or whatever. I left a little bit before it did.
Well,
But-
the reason I was asking real quick is because I find a lot of times the best teachers had terrible experience, or maybe a great experience, or best coaches had a.
Oh,
great
there was
experience.
there was definitely a lot of.
Bally, they drive so much with the sales, and one
Oh,
of the
yeah.
biggest things I've experienced in the wellness world is you got all these people who go get all these certifications and degrees, and I mean, by the time most of these guys graduate from Ohio State with a degree in kinesiology, you may as well be a doctor, you know?
Yeah.
You have to learn so much. But then they don't know a thing about business. They go
Exactly.
and they get a job as a trainer, and by the end of the year, they've just about, like looking for a job at a bank or something because they're
that's-
like,
yeah.
they can't make
That's
it work.
That's a good point too, because one thing I always stress is, like, if somebody comes to me looking for a coach or a trainer, I always explain to them, you can't replace real world experience. You know, you get a lot of people that graduate with like a dietetics degree, or they're fresh out of college, and people think, oh, I'm going to work with that person. I'm like, okay, that's good. They have some of the education, but do they have the real world experience? Do they have that management? Have they done the trials and errors? Have they lived it? Have they been there? They breathed it. And the only time they really get that is working with somebody that's has experience and has the longevity, and they've done it. And fortunate for me, I had a lot of opportunities when I was young presented to me, like Bally's and stuff, and the amount of knowledge and stuff I learned from running my own show there it can't be replaced.
Well, it's funny because at Bally, you probably didn't learn much about how to train somebody. That was all something you figured out.
I figured out on my own,
right?
yeah.
And that's what I mean by California Fitness, Bally, these big, gym chains. I mean, as a personal trainer, you don't have a business unless you have a client.
Right.
So you could have all the knowledge in the world, but unless you know how to build the brand, build the business, get people to come in and come after you,
Yeah, one thing I learned from it that I didn't learn a whole lot through schooling and everything was the management aspect, like what you're talking about,
Right.
and how to promote.
And that's what they were really good at doing.
Yeah, Bally's
Right.
was very good at that, and I was very fortunate to learn that amount of knowledge. Like when the guys would come in from New York, they would sit down, and even though they kind of had a different temperament about how to teach you, I did learn a lot from them. And
They're no nonsense. I mean, it was
Oh,
just
very
like,
no nonsense.
Here's the numbers. Here's what we're gonna do to hit them. And
oh, even when you hit the numbers, they go, great. All right, I want $2,000 more this month. I'm like, man,
yeah,
I
the
can't
goal
win.
changes on like Friday of the last day of the month.
Yeah, they're like, you got 24 hours to hit this. I'm like, great.
Right.
So
Well, so that kind of covers Steve's background. Let's get into Adam's background. Adam, go ahead and tell us, how did you get started? And don't just skip to the t-shirt part. I want you to tell. There had to be something that got you into this, because you're out on your own as well, right?
Yeah. So in college, I basically caught mono. I had to miss the rest of my my next starting semester.
I have to say,
essentially.
you're the first person that their entrepreneurial journey was they caught mono. No one is not.
Yeah.
No one said that so
The
far.
kissing
So
bandit.
I'm already excited about this. Go on.
So, I had a love for health and fitness. That's what I was going to school for. So I basically had to miss my next starting semester of college. I was pretty out of shape, actually, because, it's college. You're out drinking, partying, doing things you shouldn't do. So
Maybe you personally, but I think the rest
Yeah.
of us took college seriously. Adam.
everyone else was probably perfect.
I was
Oh,
exceptional.
please, Steve. I already know you. That's why I'm kidding. I'm looking at you when I say it.
College?
So after that, I was always a track athlete, pole vaulter, cross country runner, I realized I hated doing cross country unless I was competitive. So I started lifting, and as I got more into it, I actually, instead of getting the certification, I got a job at the YMCA, and then that's where I got my training certification and started from there. That was back in 2002, so then it wasn't until 2010 I really started working with contest prep athletes. So I really wanted to get a good base foundation with just like regular people, help them lose weight, help them get healthy. In 2011, I think it was, I linked up with Dr. Joe Klemzeski. He's the founder of If It Fits Your Macros. What me and Joe did is I actually shadowed his clients. So I would go to shows, kind of help out, kind of watch what he did with his competitors. You know, he would either give them water or salt backstage, and I wasn't sure why, but I would just observe the changes, and then eventually, and he would be like, why do you think I'm going to make this move with this competitor? And I might say, well, because they look flat, and this is what I'm seeing. Like, they might look dehydrated, let's give them some water. And basically having that mentorship was astronomical for me because, you know, I think in this, Steve will definitely agree that a lot of times we have to figure this stuff out on our own, or, you know, definitely read as many books or as many articles or as many scientific research articles as we can. And when it comes down to actually looking at somebody, it's really different, because also look becomes preference as well. So that's
and you're
where,
talking specifically in the bodybuilding, fitness,
Yeah.
competitor world.
yeah, and more so for
You
the
guys,
stage.
with your businesses, for her wedding or for just a lifestyle, or you guys
Oh, yeah.
focus on competition? Or
Yeah,
is
I
it-
do both, because I feel like, you know, competition's kind of taking it to the extreme. So if you can do that with your competition clients, there's no reason you can't get someone ready for a wedding.
You were
or
just saying things
something else.
like flat and different things
Yeah.
that the average person listening is probably
Yeah,
like,
They're
what are
probably
they talking
like,
about?
what
Yeah.
is-
Like with me, they think I only train competitors, and it couldn't be farther from the truth. About, I'd say probably 60% of my clientele is actually just normal.
trainer that maybe walk in there gets really intimidated, like, oh my gosh, like I just wanted to learn how to use the weights, and you're trying to
yeah.
get me on a stage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get a lot of people that walk into a gym, and the first things they look around and they see just a sea of machines, and the first thing you do is like, oh man. I mean, you walk into an environment that first of all is foreign to you, and then you look around and you see a million things that you have absolutely no idea how to operate them or do anything. It's intimidating to the average person. So for me, you know, and being a little bit of a bigger guy and everything, I always try to be as welcoming and as friendly as I possibly can to people, to try to make them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, you work out of Metro, right?
Correct, yes.
In Hilliard. And so that's a gym that's, you know, a lot of people know as a place where you go to hire a trainer like you, or there's a lot of,
Right.
you know, birds of a feather flock together kind of thing. So, you know, when people go in there, they may know, but there's statistics and studies that show that sometimes it takes somebody 2, 3, 4 times pulling up to the gym. Not today, Junior.
Yeah, they do.
You know, they're scared for whatever reason to walk in there, whether they're intimidated or whether they're just scared to, like, oh my gosh, I'm changing my lifestyle, I'm not ready for this. And
Well, and
leave.
that's a great point, because I'll have somebody contact me, and then they'll okay, I'll get back to you. And then they'll contact me maybe 3 weeks later,
Yeah.
and they'll go, okay, well, I'll meet you next Tuesday, and then they don't show, and eventually, like by the third or fourth time, some people like that. By the third or fourth time, they actually do show up and they get going, and sometimes those are the people that end up staying with me, and I've had them for years.
Mm-hmm.
And just getting them in the door and
Right.
and showing them that, hey, this is a friendly
I mean,
environment.
it's got to be the hardest thing in the world to sell, because you're asking for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for someone to invest in themselves, and they maybe walk out with a T-shirt. I mean, you're not walking out with a TV or a new car. You know, you're spending all this money, and you just, now it's like, now I have to work. What did I just do?
Right.
So you guys must be great motivators. I mean,
A lot of it is just self-prevalence, knowing how to present yourself, and then you also have to know how to, like when you're working with somebody and say they come in and they're overweight, you have to kind of in a nice way make them realize, like, hey, you know, this is, you're overweight, this is the possible things that could happen down the road in your later years. You know, if you end up having kids or whatever, you don't want to be there when your kids, you don't want to be, you know, down and out, or if somebody's like in the stages of like pre-diabetes or hypo or hyperglycemic or something like that. You got to kind of in a nice way explain to them some of the risks.
reality.
reality.
Yeah.
You know, without being too harsh about it. You know, you got to, you know, kind of, you know, be smooth about it and kind of tell them in a nice way, like, hey, you know, it's. I mean, you're like, I call it like a health coach, you know, and it's basically a lot like, you know, like a life coach and like stuff that you do and stuff. But it's all about wording and presentation, and it's also about finding out about that person, finding out the things they can do to relate to them, and try to make them feel like they're not out of their comfort zone, but at the same time help them realize they have goals that they have
And
to
that's
achieve.
probably the part that like experience has taught you the most. How, because again, you have all this knowledge, but how do I take this knowledge and transfer it to this customer in a way that doesn't offend them?
Right.
You know, that shows them that I care, that I'm not just a drill sergeant. You know, so that's wow, that's cool.
Definitely, every person requires something like a little different, and you have to understand your clients as individuals, and I think that's really important. And you know, I think Steve will agree with me. Those clients that don't compete on a bodybuilding stage are the people that, you know, they do stick with you for years. They also kind of need you the most because it's,
Right.
you know, it's not about winning a trophy. It's about their health.
Well, it's like Michael
It's a sport
Jordan
of
or
life.
anybody else. I mean, the best athletes have coaches.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. The good thing is, like with social media lately, and I'd say in the last, even before that took off, probably in the last 12 years, 10, 12 years, I would say that people getting personal trainers and coaches has really became the thing. Like when I was coming up in the sport and coming up in the fitness industry, you didn't have that. You know, like Adam touched on briefly earlier, it was basically, you had to learn on your own. There was a few people you could learn from. I remember I did a couple seminars with a really world-renowned coach, Charles Glass, out of California, and he's worked with like a lot of Mr. Olympia. Became friends with Dave Palumbo, who owns like RX Muscle and Speech and Nutrition. So, and then before that, I had the privilege of knowing for years Mike Davies up at the North Gym. So, like I said, I've been in scenarios where I've been well fortunate enough to learn from like the best in the industry and kind of take and mold into my own thing. So
Now, Adam, are you at Metro as well, or what's your?
No, so I do most of my work online. I have a very, very small studio that I train out of.
Okay, so how do you guys? You were mentioning earlier, are you guys a team thing or?
no, just two coaches in the fitness industry.
Gotcha.
Well, the thing I thought was interesting is that what Steve was saying is I've known him forever because we went through the same gyms and all that.
You work out?
Not as much as you. I don't play soccer for 9 hours after like sprinting. All
I remember a
day.
long time ago, we got a mutual buddy, RJ, and I remember RJ used to drag him around.
Oh yeah, I just kind of follow around and just make jokes. That's kind of my thing. But back then there were more trainers and more personal training going on. But it was almost like someone would take a weekend class and they were training them, and then you'd have the real serious people. But it wasn't so much a business like as an independent consultant type thing or like a coach. It was more you had to work for that gym. So
Right,
you were
right,
getting
right. I see
you
what
were
you're
only getting the people that took a job at that gym.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like
You
I'm an
went-
employee of Gold's Gym or
so
whatever.
yeah, so to find one of these two guys or both, you had to hunt for it, and there wasn't social media to do it. You had to know
Right.
somebody that knew somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was interesting that there was a period of, what would you say, 4 or 5 years ago, where there was a lot of backbiting in your industry, and people were, it was more they were insulting other people. You're all entrepreneurs, so it was kind of like
Absolutely.
they're using social media to insult the efforts of somebody else, whether they're doing well or not.
Right.
I thought it was a cool thing that these two work together with clients, and that they are on their own, but they're building each other's business up.
Gotcha. I thought you meant when they work together, like he's doing the nutrition and he's doing. You guys are completely independent, but work at the same
Right. It's more so like,
in the same field.
you know, it's more so like if I have somebody contact me through my website or through Instagram or something like that, and they're looking for, you know, a specific type of coach, and I end up sitting down, meeting with him, talking with him, and if I know I don't fit their mold,
Right.
I always refer like Adam, you know, or somebody who wants more of a certain structured type of diet or program, I'll send them to Adam, and or I'll send them to like Mike or something up north. So one thing is, you don't see that a lot, is like people will never do it. Nowadays people will just be like, well, I'm just going to take their money and just try my best I can. If it's something that I know I'm not going to fit that mold, then I'm going to send them to somebody that I think is going to better work with them,
right.
because it is a relationship with that client. And from the get-go, after you get the information, you sit down and talk with them. If you don't think it's going to work, send them to somebody that is. And, you know, there's very few people in this industry that I trust,
I thought you said trash.
Trash.
Who do you?
Well,
trash?
they do a lot of trash,
Yeah.
but there's very few people that I trust, and like Davies is definitely one of them, and Adam's definitely another. And there's a few other good trainers, especially here in Columbus and across the country, that I would recommend to somebody. If somebody from Florida calls and I know that I can't work with them or it's not going to fit, I know a couple trainers down there that I could send.
I had a client come in a couple weeks ago, and they were like,
Send on the mic.
Yeah, and they really did. They wanted a little more structure. I knew they weren't going to do well with macros, and for me, it hurts worse to have a client for 2 months and lose them than just like initially saying like, I hate losing people. I really do.
So when I initially heard that Steve was getting into training, I thought it was through the clubs or the fitness thing, not on his own. And knowing him since he was 15, I thought talking about, but it was, how do you get clients? It's got to be referral. It's no different. Ryan needs leads just like we need leads.
Yep.
How do you generate leads for yourself?
I would say honestly, it's your clients and how you promote yourself. And your clients' results speak for themselves. And just building a reputation, building a brand over time, just constantly getting out in there promoting yourself. Nowadays you have social media. It was a little bit harder like when we started out. My first person that I actually coached was ex-wife. So I started with her, and
She's not with you anymore, like training?
Is that?
no.
I was just
I honestly, God's truth, have no clue where. I know she's in Arizona somewhere, and that's about it. I have no clue.
I was just curious because somebody out there is going to say, whatever happened to her? So now we know the answer, so go on.
So I'm just kidding. But she was actually the first person that I actually literally coached for a show, because Bikini came out, I think, 09? 09 was the first year?
09 or 010. I was just
think it was
thinking
09.
about that. I think it was 09.
Yeah, so that was the first year. So that was the first person I ever worked with. And for me, at that point, I already had about 6 years of personal training down. And coaching and personal training is two completely different things. I always tell people, somebody comes to you and they want to get in shape. When you coach people, they're already in shape, and you have to get them to such another level of extreme for the competition level. It's night and day difference. So she was the first person I actually worked with, and then from there I slowly started getting people. Once Whirlwind caught on with the divisions, and right around 09 when Bikini came out, the whole fitness world just exploded, and the social media just took it to a whole other level. And since then, it was just, if you get one person that gets a good transformation, you get another person that gets a good transformation. And a lot of that is just the business management aspect that I learned early in life, how to promote yourself. And you got to throw all of those into the pot to do your promotions and everything. But a lot of it is too, like I said, I have a certain way I coach. Adam's got another way he coaches, and if somebody doesn't fit that mold, you shove them off to them. So,
Adam, do you agree with that?
I definitely do, because like I said, it really sucks to have someone for 2 months and then lose them, because you develop a relationship with them. So, just protecting yourself from, kind of both of you being in a bad situation. It's nice to refer people where you do think they're going to be a better fit. With general population transformations, though, I think they're ready for a change, and they're pretty moldable. That's always nice. Like I said, you usually have those clients for years. I have a guy, I think he's been with me 6 years now, and sees me 3 times a week. And
wow.
Like, honestly, sometimes I just don't even go see my family, because I know it's like almost the end of the world to him if I miss a session with him, and I mean, I like seeing the guy once, every a couple days, 3 times a week. So
Adam, your business is mostly online. Is that where you get your business?
It is mostly online, because I do have a lot of people like out of state that work with me, and I would say most of my business is nutrition based, but I did grow it from basically going from being a personal trainer, like on a floor. I actually started at Metro a long time ago.
Oh, did you really?
When I moved into Columbus,
Oh, okay.
the downtown one.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to Beyond Limits Training, which is also another great gym. And then I kind of went out on my own after that. So.
Oh, you were down at the Central Gym. Okay.
Yep.
I remember that.
Over there with Joey D.
Yeah, there with Joey D. Because I used to go in there sometimes. I remember seeing you there because I would go in there and lift with Joey a couple times.
Yep.
Yeah, me and Frank Thomas.
All the memories of Joey D. We're going to cut the break right now, but when we come back, I want to talk more about, you mentioned business management, both of you, a couple times. I want to get into that. You're listening to the 101, brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. Good job, boys. Ryan, you hanging in there? Will you hold this microphone? Let's get tired of it.
She looks pretty lazy over there. She can hold that for you.
That's her every day.
Oh,
That's.
thought I heard her snoring.
She's sitting up.
She's taking care of Instagram.
Oh, I thought she
Yeah,
was
I'm
laying
usually
down.
laying down.
I do it at Micro Center for like $10. They have one of these things with the thing, clip to the table.
You just break it like those things you put your cell phones in. I'll just have a holster
Yeah.
microphone in it.
And if you want to take a second break, you can. If not, if you got a lot to say, roll it.
If we don't take a second break, will we go
I feel like
to?
I'm on that Saturday Night Live skit with the two ladies that talk real
Yeah.
You can go about another,
balls.
Sweaty balls.
26, 27 minutes, 28 minutes.
I think these guys can fill it.
Yeah.
We'll just play it by ear. What I don't want to do is go 17 and then stop to come back and do 5. So we'll just try to go
Okay.
26. All right, we're not
I
gonna
have
take a
no
break.
clue what you're talking about.
There's a time.
We're just talking about the timing of the show, that's all.
So,
You don't need to worry
right
about it.
now
That's for Michael and I worry about it.
Right now would be where they put the commercials in. So
Yeah.
we're just stopping. The commercials would be here, and then we come back. So
I
I'm
got
looking.
We'll put like commercials in for Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep,
Dudes.
which is the
Dudes, for
main
sure.
title sponsor.
They're
And then maybe a
sponsors
Myers
program.
Jewelers commercial. Maybe a commercial for,
It won't be
Let's
SS
see.
Fitness. We'll tell you that much.
let's see, if you guys have a radio commercial for either one of your businesses, we can put that in. If you don't, we won't.
I remember when I ran Bally's, we had to hit sales, so I went down to Dockside Dolls and got all the strippers discounts.
That's hilarious.
Oh, I hit my sales quota.
You hit your quota, that's what matters.
And I increased membership sales too, because every time they bring guys in to take them on a tour,
They would sign
you'd have
up.
all the dancers at about between 2 and 4 o'clock p.m. up there on the ellipticals in their shorts.
And John Gotti's son liked that.
Yeah,
I
oh, I
still
loved
wear
it.
those shorts.
Because John Gotti's dead, but his son, I think, is still alive.
Yeah, Tupac's dead, but he's still releasing albums. All right, you ready, Jimmy?
Yeah. Hang on just a minute.
Welcome back to the 101, brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. Still with Dr. Ryan Brown, who's looking out the window. My good friend
Squirrel.
Steve Spaulding
Squirrel.
is here, and Adam Adkinson. Boys, we were talking about how your company started, and this is what you do every single day. This is your lifeblood, right?
Pretty
This is
much.
how you feed your family, take care of everybody.
Yep.
What I'm curious about is everybody that I know that wants to start a business always gets messed up on, well, I got to hire a bookkeeper. There's so many things I need to do, so I'm going to procrastinate. I'm not going to start. Now, Steve, I know your first thought is not a bookkeeper when you started. Probably not today, it's not a bookkeeper. But I want both of you to give your perspective because you coach different ways, you interact different ways with people. But I want to start with you, Steve. How do you build your business and take care of the business aspect? Or have you done it yet?
For me, it's just keeping everything as simplistic as possible. For me, it's if you get into the whole tax thing and all that stuff. Over years, I can't count how many times I've screwed up on all that, and I have to go back and then I get nice little letters from the IRS saying this, this, and this. And I remember I actually sat down. I think this was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and learned the proper way to do it. So now I go over and I actually sit down, and my father helps me every year with the taxes. He's a wizard with all that stuff. So I always tell people, when you're starting out a business, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody that's knows more than you. I think a lot of people don't want to be humbled when they don't know something, and I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I've learned is when you don't reach out for advice on something that you might not be familiar with, you're going to fail. You always want to reach out. So for me, the business side, running Bally's and all that, I learned a lot, but there were still other things that I could learn upon. So I'd always reach out and to a few people I knew that had a little bit more expertise in that field. And for like the tax purposes and all that stuff and the bookkeeping, my father is really good with that, so he was able to help me in that aspect. And then I also had a client I trained, Ellen, probably 7-8 years ago, and she was an accountant. So she was able to. She'd always come in, and after I would train her, she would kind of show me the ins and outs of things. So I honestly was fortunate enough to have a few clients that were way more knowledgeable with that stuff than I was. So we kind of would do like little trade-offs and stuff like that.
But I think what's cool about your story is that you started so young that you didn't have anything that kept you, like held you back. Like Ryan and I will talk to people who, they waited till they were 30 some years old to get out of corporate America to do a job. And they were held back because they always got their insurance taken care of, the taxes were already taken out, so that part was easy. But that kind of keeps you in that hamster wheel where you don't leave.
Right.
The advantage you had was you didn't know any different, so it was, I'm just going to go, because if you failed, you could always go get a job.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Adam, actually, we didn't get into the fact, did you just get right into the industry, or did you have a corporate job and leave it?
So I actually did 2 different jobs. So I would go to normal like 9 to 5 in the morning. So I would train people before that 9 to 5 and then train people afterwards.
Wow.
So that was rough. And actually what I did, I was a commercial electrician during that. So I would really bust my butt at work, and then, you know, hopefully have time to train myself. Sometimes I jump in with my clients back then, because, you know, I think Metro closed at like, I want to say 9:30 or 10.
10 o'clock, yeah,
and
10.
like my last client was usually like 8. That would go till 9. However often I chat with them afterwards, and then I'd be hurrying up to get my workout done before they close shop, and then start my day all over again. So
I was actually going to ask that you brought up something that, like, you know, if I worked at, you know, a pizza shop, the last thing I want to eat is pizza if I've been around pizza all day. And I actually was at Donato's Pizza, and there was a guy in a Pizza Hut outfit on, and I was like, is he borrowing ingredients? What's going on? He's like, no, man, I can't eat. You know, I still like pizza, but I can't eat Pizza Hut. Like, he was at another place.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard being in a gym all day or being around fitness all the time that, you know, you're kind of demotivated yourself? Like, hey, it's my 2 hours of free time. I don't want to be at the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For me, it's, you know, I'm there all day long, and, you know, as much as you love your job and you love your clients and everything, like, mentally, you just need to kind of step back sometimes. And I always tell people getting in the industry, like, find something else that you can kind of wrap your mind around in your free time and stuff, and don't be so consumed into it. To give yourself a break. Like, for me, it's always been art. I've always drawn, and I've drew and did sketching and artwork and stuff like that. And for me, it was that, and then playing the bass guitar and stuff. So for me, artistry has always kind of been my escape away from weightlifting and everything. So I try to find good balance in that. When, you know, if I have a stressful day at work or at the gym, I can come home, play the bass, or sit down and just start sketching something out. To me, that's a stress reliever.
Do you actually work out at Metro, or do you go somewhere else completely?
Oh, I work out at Metro.
Yeah.
So, and it's, you know, sometimes, you know, when you're working out, that's like your time. But I think for the most part, when I'm training, I've been at the gym so long.
People know to leave you alone.
People know to leave me alone. Yeah.
That was my issue.
Well, look at this dude. Does he look like he's gonna hug you if you see him? Like, he's the nicest guy if you know him. But if you see him on a video or an Instagram post, you're like, that guy's been to jail.
Well, I think that's what's so great about these 2 guys here, Steve and Adam, is, you know, one guy, you know, looks like the drill sergeant, or someone who's going to really, you know, bust you, and then, you know, Adam's, you know, real reserved and just, I'd feel real
Lovable
comfortable.
sweetheart.
Yeah, like completely 2 different personalities doing the same thing, and I just think that's says a lot about just business in general. You know, you have all different personalities, and everybody can use it to their strength and figure out what their weaknesses are and overcome them, and I just think that's important.
Well, I think it's a cool contrast in what you guys do, but you're getting people to their goals, right? I mean, every business you have is to organize somebody to get them or a client to their goal. But you guys have to work hand in hand, right? I mean, not on every single person, but you have to, there's probably going to be disagreements that you have, but you have to work together to get the end result. And that's no different than when you're an entrepreneur. Like, Ryan and I don't do business outside of this, but we have to, whether I see him all week or not, we have to get along when we're doing this. We can disagree about 20 other things when it's over.
As soon as the show ends, he smacks me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why he's here. But what I think is cool is we haven't had people that were from 2 different organizations that actually work together. So this is kind of a learning experience for us, too.
It's very, I mean, would you say it's pretty rare? At a lot of shows, like, you'll see, like, we'll be backstage, you know, and, you know, I'll have some of my competitors there, and Adam have some of his, and it's like they all just talk to each other and get along. And a lot of times in this day and age, you don't have that. You'll have one group of, you know, competitors from one team kind of just like mean mugging, kind of like the movie Mean Girls. and you have something like that. But it's really
I've
cool
not seen
because
that movie, Steve. What's it about? It seems like nope. Stop looking down. Look at me. You bring up Mean Girls like I'm supposed to know what that is.
come on, your wife or girlfriend never made you watch that?
That's none of your business.
I watched it on my own. I really like it. So.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. No, I'm just teasing, but I know what you mean because I know there's a lot of competitive mindsets, and you have to be.
Oh, it's literally every show that I'm at, Adam's there. So you develop relationships with the other coaches that are there a lot, and you get to know their athletes as well, and they get to know yours, and it becomes everybody just becomes like one kind of melting pot, I guess.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet actually? Because
I'm trying to
God,
think.
years
I mean,
ago.
because it's been years ago.
Because
and-
you guys kind of need each other at some point. Like,
Well,
like
I
you
think
said, there's
so,
some people
like-
you got to swap because they might not like his method and they might
Oh, yeah, like
like
I'll
yours.
send somebody to Adam, or like if I can't make it to a show, and I got some girls in a show, or I got some clients in a show, like I know if Adam's there, like I could rely on like texting him and be like, hey, I have so and so there, can you make sure that they're doing okay? And I know that he would do that.
Or like take pictures so he can
Yeah.
like observe and make changes that he needs to. And I think one thing that like if anyone's listening, like never hate your competition.
No
'cause
one's
your-
listening.
Your competition.
Listen, when you said that, I looked at Ryan to see if he was listening. So go ahead.
But never hate your competition
I
because
agree.
your competition is actually really there to make you better. And I think we can all learn from each other. And Walmart wouldn't be what it was without Meijer, and vice versa. And I think at the end of the day,
You can't
all
have
of
great
them are
value
doing
Oreo
okay.
Walmart brand without having the actual Oreos.
Well, you said something though.
Nothing deeper has ever been said on this show.
Yeah, see?
You said something though, Adam, earlier in the first segment that I was thinking about in this industry specific, and I think it goes with a lot of industries, but specifically when you're dealing with the human body, and when we're dealing with as we move into a more scientific era,
Yeah.
what you learn in the 1990s, that book that some guy took at Ohio State in his kinesiology class, you may throw it out the window because it's pointless, because so much new study. I mean, I'm talking a year later, let alone 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, from when I was in school to now. I mean, a lot of, your basics are always going to be the same, but a lot of the research, and I remember sitting in class, we'd have to do research papers and everything, and I go back and I read it, and I'm like, there's been new case studies that have came out in the last 2 years that completely debunks this, but this was
Right.
correct back then.
Right.
So the thing I always, one thing you always have to do is you always have to stay on top of it. You always got to be reading new research, clinical studies, and stuff like that, because the medical field and the fitness industry changes so fast. You'll get left behind like that.
Right.
Mhm.
So you definitely got to be on your toes about it. You always got to keep practicing and learning and expanding your knowledge base.
One thing to add to that, because of social media too, our clients see like virtually any tidbit of information out there, and I think right now we're in a world of everyone has something like broken on their body or something like wrong with them, and that's not always the case. A lot of times people just need good consistency in training and dieting. I think a lot of people jump to, well, I have a hormone issue, and it's like, well, why don't you get blood work and actually see
What
before
does
you
Mike
assume
say?
you have that?
Mike always says you got a hand-to-mouth issue.
Yeah, and it's like I was driving on the way
That's
here.
like a verbal hug.
It is.
I
He's
was
known for
driving
those.
on the way here. I saw a termite truck. I was like, oh man, should I get my house checked for like termites? It's been 2 years, and like that's exactly how our clients see it. Oh, I just saw so and so had this. Should I worry about it? And
Well, and I find it so fascinating how many people are willing to spend money on their car, oil change, car wash, new wheels, new tires, gasoline, and there's people who spend a ton of money in their car and the maintenance of it. But then if you ask them how much they've spent on themselves, not talking new, Nike Air Jordans or whatever, but like actual,
Body.
their body.
yeah,
To
and it's
maintain it, to take care of it. Yeah. Do you find it hard to ask for money from people? Like, do you find do you ever get into negotiations? Because in my business,
I want Steve
Oh,
to
yeah.
answer this last. I want Adam to do it first because I have a feeling I know what's coming. But
So this is great, and Steve was talking about the accounting and everything. I'm horrible about asking for money. I'm really bad. So
you
my
seem
wife,
like such a hard guy.
Well, I
to
know,
give me
right?
my
well,
money.
real quick though, the reason I ask you is because I
Debt
lived in
collector.
California for a long time, and I was a district manager. I ran all these big Gold's gyms in California,
Mhm.
and I had trainers that were, the perfect sales guy. They were reading the sales books, and I had trainers over here that didn't even want to pick up a sales book. They thought that was like the devil, and they were reading all the science stuff, and they were really loving being a trainer. Well, of course, those guys that are great trainers, they know the knowledge. They couldn't get any sales. They couldn't get a trainer, a customer to train. And these people over here aren't really the best trainers, but they were booked up.
Right, yeah.
They're the selling. So there's got to be a fine line between the two, learning the business and the sales, and then also knowing your trade. In my business, not my coaching business, but I own a construction company. So, I'm always bidding with people. I'll come out and meet, John and Mary Jones, and I'm talking to them about their windows, and then they'll be like, well, this contractor said it would be this cost, or they looked up online and found that it should cost this much. And I know there's trainers that cost, a ton of money, and then there's trainers that are, don't charge hardly anything. Where do you find the value in your business? Like, are you guys charged the same amount, or do you charge different customers different prices? How do you figure that out?
I usually charge the same amount based on like if they're a lifestyle client or contest prep. But to generate those sales for me, just like you were talking about a roofing contractor, I'm going to tell someone what I think is wrong with their roof. And granted, they could probably go on YouTube and maybe figure out how to do roofs at night. Or they can decide to hire me and fix their roof. And then in this case, just with their...
like that's what you're trying to get at.
Or in this case, just their body, So I'll tell them what I think our approach should be. I don't necessarily have a game plan mapped out, but this is what I think we should do to help you, get better, reach your goals. And
well, no two people are the same, right? So it's not.
Correct.
It's not in the roofing thing. It is one roof versus another.
Very
you
true.
have to spend time on somebody's well-being and what they look like. It's a different plan, so it's a different structure, right?
Yeah, and I think everyone's psychological state's different when they diet as well, so that makes it very interesting. So definitely, I know we both experienced that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Steve, how do you collect money? Do you just show up on doorsteps?
Yeah,
You like those thumbs?
Yep. You knock on the door, knock
He
on the back
learned
window.
the New York way at
Yeah.
Bally's. That's how we collected money. So get on. the
Oh
ground.
yeah, they got their money. Bally's did. I think for me, it's just
Kneecaps.
as far as my clients go. Everybody's got like a set day, that everybody is due pretty much. I mean,
Here's a question, because we kind of had this come up where the first of the month is always, that's when stuff is due, right? So let's say it's due day, someone
First
hadn't
of the
paid,
month.
and they show up. They haven't paid, but they show up. How do you handle that?
I give everybody a grace period. I'll give them a few days because I understand, like, if the first falls on like a Monday or a Tuesday, I'll be like, I get paid Friday. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
What a gentle flower you
But
are.
then,
I thought you were gonna be
Friday
angry
comes
about it.
along, and there's no one to be found.
It honestly depends on the person too. Like if I know they're notoriously late, and then sometimes
Do you get that a lot, or is everything pretty smooth?
You got a few people that over the years that I've done this, you always got people that kind of pay you late or whatnot. The difference being like when you're in a corporate gym, if they show up and they haven't paid, you're like, sorry, buddy.
So I have a business question, even for my own self. How do you deal with friends or family or someone you meet out at
Oh, that's good.
you meet out at a bar one night and you're hanging out, having a beer with a buddy, and you start talking to people, and he's like, hey, kind of the pro bono thing, like, hey, can you hook me up, train me? Is it an easy answer for you, or do you help people out?
Are you saying hook up with that? Like, I'll
I'm
do
looking for
something
free
you?
training, is what I'm.
I can see that. I can see that you're flexing and he's not impressed. But what I'm saying is, are you saying
I
I'll
had to cut my
trade?
sleeves off.
Yeah, I'll trade you windows for training. Are you saying that? Or
Well, you could. I guess there is a bartering system. No, but I was literally saying, because in my business, I have, there's a lot of people who say don't do business with family. But I think personal training is a little different. But time is money in your business.
It is.
You're selling your time for dollars. And in my business, I don't want to go deal with family because, again, if they don't pay or they're not.
Well, the good thing is if it's family or friends, you should at that point, if you've known them, obviously your family your whole life, you should know if they're really going to do it or not.
Well,
Right.
some people know their family their whole life. A lot of people on Maury have just met their father.
That is true.
Oh man.
I'm just pointing out it's on TV all the time. So let's not just
Yeah.
assume your family is.
But like
super
family and
tough.
friends, I'm always willing to help them out, and to me, to help them out would always be, like I've trained my dad for years, and for the most part, if he's not at Roosters, on Broad Street, he'll come in and train.
Yeah.
So, but like for me, you know, I'll always be there for my family and my friends to benefit them. It's just a matter of, you know, if they want to show up or not. And
Well, I feel like people that come to you, you've been around a long time, they know that, hey, if I'm going to work with you, it's going to cost money. How much is it? Adam, you're such a nice guy, and someone comes to you, do you I feel like you're the guy, kind of like me, that's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just maybe pay next week.
You two
know?
are similar, because I can see,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. Just take it. It's my pleasure to give this to
In
you.
my personal coaching business, that's the biggest issue I have.
Mhm.
I can ask for window money, or you know, in the construction business, because it's a trade. It's I'm out there, other customers, they're gonna buy. It's gonna be for me or someone else. In the coaching business, it's personal. They call it personal coaching or personal training because it is very personal. You get to know them emotionally, and then you know you want to help so bad. I think we can all agree that we get into this business not for the money. Teachers don't become teachers to make $1 million.
oh, absolutely.
We get in the business because we love it. We love helping people get from point A to point B. And I think any business, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, it's not going to work out. But I have a problem when I'm working with someone, and I'm emotional with them, and I'm learning all about them, and then you know they're like, oh, can I get a deal, or I can't afford it, or I'm like, you know, as opposed to saying, no, if you can't afford it, I'm sorry, I can't help you. There's the door. I'm like, well, okay, you know.
What I did was
I'm a sucker.
I just set for family and friends, like in my phone I have like price sheets and everything at home and my ledger books and stuff. So for family and friends, like I have a clear cut pricing that I do for them. And I tell them, you know, right off the bat, like, hey, you know, this is what I normally charge. This is what I'm gonna do because you're family or your friends, and they're always understanding for the most part. So.
Well, the reason I ask too is because there's a lot of people listening that either want to get in business or have a business. Like I dated a girl 10 plus years ago who just finished hair school, and she did the whole salon thing, and she started getting her friends do their friends, their friends' parents, and she was doing hair for a girl's prom and this and that. But people would always ask her how much, and she would just kind of look away. That's where she got nervous, and she'd be like, well, whatever you want to pay. And in the personal training business or in the coaching business, I can see someone says, well, how much is my session today? And you're like, well, and I think it's so important to know, you kind of said it, Steve, that if you have a website or you have a menu almost where you can say, when someone says how much is it, what I told her to do is, here's my website, go look at my pricing. So then it took it off of her, and they basically say, here's the pricing, and push it in front of the person. And so instead of asking for the money, it's saying, choose your option. I mean, is that something you guys do? Do you have certain preset plans?
Yeah, one thing for me, I basically do have a preset plan, but my wife, Sarah, actually does all the billing.
So you put it on someone else.
So you have to get a wife to run a business.
Exactly. But you mentioned something funny where you're like, you know, you do let people go sometimes, and my wife will be like, hey, I'm pretty sure I saw so-and-so at the gym. Why didn't you tell me a bill?
Yeah.
And that's where, like, we really complement each other. She's great at, you know, really assisting me with that.
Well, it's funny you said my wife, she's probably watching the Facebook Live here, but it's so funny because I have outstanding bills right now from customers. I need to go get that money, and like she's all about, like, I just need to have her show up.
She's probably boxing things at your house in case that doesn't come in.
I'm sure Steve's had this too, though, where people, like, go through a rough situation. Like, I had a client go through a pretty horrible divorce, and you know, that's where I become not a businessman, and it's kind of like, you know, I need to help you out of a tough spot, and I don't want you have to go through for, you know, going through another hard time in life, you know. And
I will say, like, for people that might have a hard time, you know, with that whole, you know, hey, pay me or whatever, or approaching people, just, you know, download like a template for like an invoice or something, and if it's better off just emailing it to them. And they're like, there's so many apps that you can use, you know, obviously PayPal's been around forever, but an app like Venmo, every month you can.
Relationship management software, like I know you're at Metro, so they probably have one already for the check their guests in and things like that. Do you guys use one personally where you have?
I have like Microsoft Office business, so it's got, you know, everything in it. So
yeah, and we use Authorized Net, which is like a secure server that will keep people's credit cards on file, and then they're just ran appropriately that way.
That's a big part of the business that people don't think about. Like I said, people that want to go off and do their own hair business or personal training or any trade, construction, plumbing, and then they're like, wait, how do I manage all of the days of writing things down is over, and unless you are privy to that, it's, okay.
I don't think you'll really have a business if you don't learn all that stuff.
Right.
No.
So you kind of have to.
But it's okay that you messed it up, because I'm sure in the beginning, both of you,
I made a lot of mistakes. in the
My first 2
beginning.
years, I was killing it. I wasn't collecting the money, but on paper, I was working a lot.
Yeah,
But that's one of the things is Ryan says this all the time. It's not about the money. That's not why you get into it. The money is a factor of what you're doing. But if you're not making mistakes, and the money part is probably the number one mistake because we all feel bad. Like, I guess pay me when you get it, and then you just never get it.
Yeah, I feel like there's two types of business owners. Like you got the business owner who is a business-minded person, and they go based on an investment. Like this is a great thing to invest in. I don't know anything about this business, but all the sources say this is a great place to invest. And then you have the people who start a business because they're very passionate, but they don't know anything about investments or money or business.
right.
So yeah, it's fascinating.
Well, you don't find a lot of people that work like as CEOs jump out and they become entrepreneurs because someone's collecting money for them.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's giving them the money. It's you have to learn how to get that business up and running. And again, I'm so glad to see what you're doing, Steve, because to think about how long ago you started, and when you were a kid, I was like, that kid's gonna be something. I don't know what it is, but
I didn't know either.
well, you think about it, and you're like, that kid's running his own business, and you've made a name for yourself, and you have too, Adam. And it's cool that you guys have been able to do this, and it was such a niche industry, and now thank God for Instagram because everybody on there is going to the gym and they're posting about it. That must help your business tremendously.
It does.
Absolutely.
You know, when your clients repost things and they tag you in it, and people will be like, wow, that girl looks great. And they see, oh, she works with Adam or she works with Steve. Well, I'm going to go look at Steve or Adam's page. You know, that's one way to generate, new clientele, to generate,
Do you guys do social media branding? Like, do you have someone run a Facebook page, an Instagram page, Twitter, all that stuff, or do you do it yourself?
I do it myself, and you can probably tell because my website's not the greatest looking thing. Rachel's just like, you got to redo your website.
Yeah, she's friendly like that.
Yeah, she is.
She always gives positive updates. Don't talk to that guy. Okay, great.
Now, out of your business is solely online, though. So do you do all your own, graphic design work and?
So we had
Internet
somebody
stuff?
do that to start, and now it's just pretty much free flowing. So we, I do like direct email with all my clients and sometimes phone calls and such. But for the most part, everything on that end's already taken care of. Like the design has been made. Actually, Steve's wife or girlfriend Kayla
Slash
does.
soon to be whatever.
Soon to
I
be what?
just forced the engagement there.
Nope.
But
Merry
yeah,
Christmas,
she makes
Kayla.
suits and she makes robes. So I actually sent her my logo last week to start making some robes for the
You're gonna look
competitors.
amazing in there.
I'm gonna try.
Step out of the shower, put that nice robe on.
Me too.
I can't wait to see that on
Look it up.
Instagram.
It's all
Before-
rhinestones.
Yeah,
too.
before we're done, Adam, if somebody did want to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, if they go to my website, it is www.seeyoulaterleaner.com.
Or the way I said it in the wrong way in the beginning. And then Steve, if somebody's trying to contact you.
They can get a hold of me at www.ssfitnesstraining.com. If anybody listening is on social media, they can find my handle at BBuilderSteve. That's BBUILDERSTEVE.
I was really worried you were going to finish that
It's
sentence.
been like
I know
3
one
hours
thing
since
that-
I've ate, so
I know
can
one
eat.
thing that's going to really help your business. January 1st.
It's pretty, I'll say this. It used to be crazy back in the day, but it seems like January, everybody's like, they get their bills from Christmas and they're like, oh shoot.
Oh yeah.
But really, for me, I don't know if Adam's the same way, but the thing I've learned in like the last 8 to 10 years is about February, especially March, people go crazy, and and the reason why is the Arnold. It's different here in Columbus because people get Arnold fever. They go to the Arnold and they go, I want to look like that guy. I want to look like that girl. And then, man, that following month, like all
You
through
get all
March,
inspired.
April, and May,
Yeah.
it's just you're full all the time.
I think January is where people get the jitters out and they actually join a gym. And then if they stick to it, like you
Yeah,
said,
that's about
February, March, let's get a trainer and take this to the next level.
Right.
Well, it's a good thing we got you guys in now before the big season really hits because we may never see you again once Arnold fever hits.
It's pretty busy. Spring's always crazy.
Well, that's going to be it, boys. Thanks for coming in.
you for
Doc,
having
thank
us.
you for being here.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the 101 brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep.
Cool.
Oh.
Cool. I can fucking cuss now, motherfucker.